Hey everybody, it's Trigger Bar Philosopher. Welcome back out to the channel. Today we have an exciting episode where we're going to be taking a look again at some Hornady Critical Defense and 380 ACP. We're going to test up our real world target a little bit. We're going to be doing some testing with that for some simulation purposes. We'll see how it goes. Should be a good time. Let's get to shooting. Okay everyone, before we get started, I'm adding this little preamble into the rest of the video. I'm going to give everyone a warning. This is going to be a long, boring video. I'm going to go into history of organic gelatin, evolution to clear ballistic gelatin, some of the studies that led to this, and then some issues I've been having with clear ballistic gelatin, and then a test for how I can maybe make an improvement to the behavior of hollow point bullet expansion with clear ballistic gelatin. If this is of no use to you, stop here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all that you do to support the channel. Okay, for those of you who are staying, all three of you, thank you for watching. We are going to get into a little bit of it here. I do appreciate you spending the time with me as we explore how to improve our test regimen and test setup. Hope everyone has a good time watching this. Let me know in the comments. Been watching the channel, we've been doing some different things to expand and see if we can get better and better simulations. Oftentimes a comment on here is, hey, you can't use clear ballistics, that has no meaning. You know, you got to use organic gel. The FBI chose that for a reason. And I've gotten, just a litany of comments in many of my ammunition testing videos about that. So I just want to back up just for a second. We'll talk about organic gel for a minute. Organic gel was built in the 80s. Prior to the 80s, they did shots into clay. You still see people doing shots into clay to measure the cavitation that comes about in them. They were doing shots into a variety of different mediums. So organic gelatin was really made as a way to compare these different rounds to see if they are meeting the standards that the FBI had wanted for performance of the bullet. Will it expand? Will it get deep enough to cause and hit the vitals? I've also had people say, my vitals are 1 inch under my skin. Okay, well, but deep down in, the average is 6 to 9 inches to get into people's and through people's vitals that are causing the problems. And of course, people vary one to the next. Our consistency, our tissue. If you ever look at organic tissue, it is not uniform. It is not consistent from person to person. You can get averages, you can get about the same, and that's wherein they developed, and it was really Dr. Fackler who really did a lot of this development, where they developed the gelatin to simulate goat muscle. So if you go back and read some of his original articles that have been published, he did a lot of simulations.
Basically what we have done, we have taken a bullet that we tested in pure gelatin before, and we had a penetration depth of 77 centimeters. Now we've added 14.5 centimeters of pig, which was the first thing the bullet hit. And we did this to show that the deformation of the bullet by the pig is the same as the deformation by the gelatin.
Into freshly killed, or sometimes live, goat's quarters, and then compared that penetration, expansion of the bullet, compared that to his concoction of organic gelatin.
In the literature of people who use this gelatin, for instance, if you see anyone who's got a temporary cavity for the M16 of about 25 centimeters, you know that they ruined their gelatin, because the gelatin gets very sloppy. The high-speed camera will give you a much larger temporary cavity, but the cracks will be smaller because it's much more flexible and so it just totally ruined.
Finally came out with a recipe to make the organic gelatin that would be on average about what he was seeing with this goat tissue. Now again, this is where people go crazy. We got to use organic gelatin, got to use organic gelatin. Okay, so if we just extrapolate from that, how close does human tissue resemble goat tissue? It's probably pretty close, but it's not exact, right? It's probably a good simulation when we're talking about half-inch close, types of things like that, probably fine. But when we talk about a bullet like the 380 that's barely going fast enough to get expansion, is it a close enough simulation? It's there's a lot of details that are a little fuzzy in this whole story that I'm relaying to you. So there's a purpose to it. Hold on, we'll get there. So along comes this company that does clear ballistics, because organic gelatin is really rough. You have to have it 6 by 6 by 16. The reason it has to be at least 6 by 6 is, and you have to shoot it once in the interior with organic gelatin, is because if you shoot it on the outside of it, there won't be enough pressure and it won't simulate, again, that goat tissue. This is all in papers. You can go back and read it. So if your gelatin is not 6 by 6, it's going to be off. Is it, throw it out and it's of no worth? Of course not. I'm just telling you based on what they did in those studies of how they measured it up. So fast forward to today, organic gelatin's a pain in the butt to manufacture. You have to do this long mixing process. You put it in your fridge. Like, I don't have room for a 6 by 6 by 6 by 16 thing inside my refrigerator. That might be the line that my wife is like, no more, right? Where she's tolerating a whole lot, I'm not going to push that. The next thing is it's got to be kept at that temperature until you shoot it, and then ideally it stays at that temperature. And then, of course, we all know, or many of us know, that you're then supposed to calibrate it with a BB going, no faster than certain amount and no less than this amount, and it's got to penetrate by this amount, and no more than this amount, no less than that amount, and then you've calibrated it properly. Well, and that needs to happen with every time you mix it up, because every time you mix it up, you may have changed it a little bit. So along comes this company called Clear Ballistics. It says, can we make something that's similar to this organic gelatin, and it doesn't have these same properties? Like, you can pretty much shoot it as long as it's above freezing, and pretty much shoot it. And I really mean the block is above freezing and it's not so hot that it's starting to melt, right? So you really have a pretty wide range of storage options, of shipping options, of preparing, and then you get the benefit of where they say, yeah, melt it down and reuse it, and it'll come back to its same consistency. So a lot of great use properties. So then the question comes back to, well, how well calibrated it is. Well, I was recently reading an article put out by Hornady that said, yeah, it's not close enough. What they saw was that bullets they penetrated further in clear ballistics, and they didn't expand as much as they did in organic gelatin. And again, I'm gonna bring us back to the beginning. Like, is it within the realm of how much variation from one person to another, from human to goat, from goat to to organic gelatin? There's a whole bunch of simulations going on in this whole big experiment. So my point then in coming to it is we have all these, if you will, tolerances that are stacking up on us. So are we moving closer with clear ballistics to a simulation of human tissue, or further away? And again, we're talking about muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is not lung tissue. It's pretty close to heart, but it's not gut tissue. It's not organ tissue like kidneys and pancreas and liver. Those behave, they have different elastic properties than muscle do. So they're really going to perform very different. So again, we're talking a lot about how do we get a good simulation. At the end of the day, what we want to know is, does this thing work? And I think the thing that's been kind of bothering me lately is this notion that, especially with 380 ACP, that's on the verge of not expanding and maybe not getting deep enough penetration, how valid our test is with clear ballistics. So then that got me to thinking, is what if we added a thin layer of water? Water has a great property that it is going to help your bullet super expand. So shooting into water, it's not nearly going to go deep as if you were shooting into gel or organic gel or human tissue, and the bullet's going to have perfect expansion. Well, what if we then keep a high rate up, because I'm trying to match to some of this organic gelatin. So I recently, again, I was reading some Hornady articles, and I looked at their bullet, and I went online and I got permission and found the organic test for this ballistic gel. And I saw in the organic test, it got perfect expansion. It looked beautiful. And I looked at my test in clear ballistic and with medium density fiberboard, I got no expansion. So that got me to thinking, well, is it my test? Is it my gel? And one more thing that I looked at is velocity. My velocity was 890 feet per second. Their velocity was 1,000. That's 110 feet per second. That's a big difference. So is that why I'm not comparing it? So there's just a lot of stuff going on here that I'm trying to get out of my brain and put it out here and let you all comment and feast upon the inaccuracies that I've been saying. But I want to put it out there of why I'm going to do this test, because I am looking to see if I can get just a little bit better of a test setup going. What I do have is I have my 3 inches of ballistic gel. Actually, it's 2 inches of ballistic gel here. Again, I got this notion from Gum Sam where he typically puts MDF in here after 3 inches of gel and sometimes 4. And then I have a little baggie filled with water. So I've got about an inch of width of water that should provide some expansion. So what I want to do today is I want to bring out the Hornady Critical Defense, shoot them into the gel and see what differences that happen or occur when we add this in. And then if possible, I want to add some t-shirt, because we didn't get expansion with t-shirt with these rounds, and see if this water makes a difference, because they claim, Hornady claims, is that it expands with their layers of t-shirt versus in Clear Ballistics, it's not. So these are just some things that I'm doing, trying to get better and better simulations. I know I'm going to probably drive myself nuts and maybe you all nuts with all of these things, but you know, that's a lot. Hopefully I didn't lose everybody in my audience. Let's try this out and see if we can come up with a better solution, and then we'll try and work it out from there. Okay, should be a good time. Let's get to shooting. Okay, well, first thing that I want to try is the BB gun, and we're going to calibrate this gel. 590 feet per second. It got 3.12 inches in that block. 609. All right, well, we're going to take a test right here. Hopefully we can get down to what this is saying for our BB penetration. We got right at 3 inches. Especially if you go to the mark, it's pretty much 3.12 inches, which is what exactly they said they calibrated it at, and which is what Hornady said is that their lots weren't getting it, and they were putting down Clear Ballistic gel for not getting adequate penetration. We had the same velocity, 590, and we still got the same thing that was printed on this chart. So I'm not sure who signed off on this. Sometimes Tech 4210. Good job. You did it right. Well, we got our gel block down there. We have a Garmin. Hopefully we'll be able to capture what we're getting with this Hornady FTX projectile. When there is nothing in there other than that Clear Ballistic gel, we'll use that as our test medium. And unfortunately, it didn't pick it up. Sometimes we're a little too close for the Garmin. I've shot 5-shot groups from the same box of ammo, so we know what it's about getting. Okay, I'm experimenting with some new cameras, so hopefully you can even see what I'm talking about. But the bullet came in here, got fantastic expansion, and got all the way down to about, I draw it out at about the 9-inch mark when I just kind of draw straight from it. Got some expansion, we had some pedal loss. It did fantastic job. Again, that's without any t-shirt. It's out the MDF. When I did this test recently, I did it with the t-shirt, and we didn't get anywhere near the expansion. We didn't get anywhere near this type of disruption that was going on. In fact, we got tumbling instead of all of that. So I think it's great to see that. Now, why don't we now add in our water barrier? So again, we're going to put 2 inches of gel here, and then our water barrier, which is about 1 inch thick, and then we'll see what happens with it. And we'll compare the rounds, and then we'll also then finally add t-shirt. Okay, well, we got another round in here. We got this test, we got the Garmin, hopefully that will catch something. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. You probably can't see it from there, but if we go back into our target, we come out here, we're at about 9 inches is here, and that's about where it went, but it may have gone just a little bit further. So I do think we got very similar results. We did lose pedals much earlier in the process, so I'm guessing we got much more expansion earlier on when it went through that water barrier. So there's much less observed damage going on inside the gel block, and that has to be because the damage happened in the water where we got all the expansion. What I want to do is kind of mess up my what we're looking at for some of the other tests, but I really want to get this dug out and take a look at the expansion on these two rounds. Okay, I think that was a very successful test. The one on the left is the one with the slight water barrier. The one on the right is just the clear ballistics. But it's noticeable to me that this groove down in the bottom is much more shallow than this one. So this one on the right got less expansion. You can also just tell this is just a little bit bigger. I'll have to get my calibers out when I get home. But that is a good sign. I want to do one final test. Let's put clothing up and see what that does. Okay, well, now we have 4 layers of clothing. We have 2 layers of denim and 2 layers of t-shirt. So we're going to shoot that into the gel with the water and see what we get with that. Hopefully we get some expansion and penetration that should be about where it's supposed to be at. I see water coming, so that's good. And gosh dang it, didn't pick it up here again. It's the way it is sometimes. Okay, well, this is kind of a mess, but the bullet is right in here. And before I pulled out the contraption, it got out to 10 inches. Remember, just a bit ago when we tested with the gel and with nothing else, we got about 9 inches. We added the water, we got about 8 inches. We took away to add the clothing, but kept the water, and then we got about 10 inches. And from a previous test, and I'll show that from the same lot of ammo, I'll show a picture of the results that we got. We got basically no expansion. So let's take a look here. This time it looks like not complete expansion, but more expansion than I got with the previous rounds. Actually, we got very good expansion. It actually looks very similar. Make sure you can see that. Looks very similar to the other rounds, just less expansion, so it got more penetration. That's kind of how things go, right? So if we take a look at all of these bullets together, right, we had the one with the water that got the most, right, and that has the least amount of penetration. We have the one that came in just nothing else, just the gel, and then we got the most was with the water and gel, the least was with the water and the clothing. I'm kind of excited. I think that's pretty good because I still think we're getting decent expansion. I think the clothing is always going to mess with your expansion. That's just kind of a given. Let's just do a couple of ammunition test fires with some of this ammo, and then we'll wrap things up. Okay, well, we've got our Garmin set up. We've got 5 rounds of this Hornady XTP. Hopefully we can catch some rounds. Hopefully we can ring some steel. 905. Like I said, they advertise 1,000. So this is 100 feet per second and less. 917. 919. 927. And then 884. So 927 to 884, when I got no expansion, that could have been entirely the reason. That gives you a range, at least in a sample, a small sample size of what these velocities are doing. Let's wrap things up and talk about what we've discussed today. Okay, well, let's wrap things up. I'm really glad that I lost the footage of me closing out this video because now I have perspective by watching all the film totally edited, and now I'm creating this last little part of the video. And with that, I don't think this is a testing medium that I'm going to do. I wasn't able to really see what happened to the bullet when it hit the water. Yes, you can see it splash, and that's really fun, but I didn't really see the expansion. I couldn't really tell the energy dump as it expanded in the gel like you can when there's no water there. So in that sense, I'm not really happy with what's going on there. And so I'm going to have to keep looking. I would appreciate it in the comments below. What did you think about this testing setup? Do you care if you don't see the actual full expansion of the bullet when it hits the water and then comes out the other side in the gel totally expanded? Or do you really want to see the progression of the expansion happening in the gel and that energy jump that's occurring? Let me know which of those is important to you to try and get the right expansion of the bullet or see it in the video itself. I'd appreciate getting feedback from you. If you have other ideas, that would be great. Probably not going down the organic gel route, probably not going down the meat target route. There's enough people that are doing those types of tests. And so I'm going to probably stick with something with the gel. I do have a couple of ideas of things to try yet, and so we may do another video, but without a lot of the long-winded explanations up at the front part of it. So with that said, I hope everyone has a great week, and let's get shooting.
Out here in the heartland, where our spirits run free, trigger bar philosopher, it's you and me. From pistols to rifles, we'll take on the best, reviewing each weapon, put them to the test. With revolvers and shotguns, we'll break it all down. The Second Amendment protects from the crown.